Welcome to my channel. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe and like. Zalara Vren glided through the dim corridors of the Crimson Void Station, her crimson leather boots striking the cold metal floor with a steady rhythm, each tap echoing like a countdown to an unseen mission. Her sleek armor gleamed a deep, bloody red under the flickering light of malfunctioning bulbs, hugging her lithe yet sturdy frame a living statue forged from blood and steel. Her pale purple skin shimmered with a thin sheen of sweat, glinting like pearls in the faint glow, while her golden eyes blazing like twin embers swept over the control panel dangling from the wall, its blinking numbers pulsing like the station's lifeblood. Her long black hair was tied into a tight bun at the nape of her neck, exposing the pointed ears of a Klytheran, a predator from the Zalara system, where darkness was home and light a fleeting visitor. She brushed her hand over the plasma pistol concealed beneath her jacket, fingers grazing the cool metal, and a faint smile curved her lips, sharp and fleeting, like lightning before a storm. "Zalara, the target has landed at Bay 9. Commander Tyker's voice crackled through the tiny comms device in her ear, cold and brittle as snapping steel. "He's an Earth pilot, Ethan Cole. He's carrying data on our fleet. Get it, no matter the cost." "Understood, Commander," Zalara replied, her voice smooth as velvet but edged with a blade ready to slice through any defense. Seducing a human? For a Klytheran like her, it was child's play. Her kind was born with a beauty that bent hearts and a knack for twisting emotions like dry twigs. Yet, as she strode toward Bay 9, her red boots clicking against the floor, a strange sensation flickered through her like the chill breath of the cosmos slipping through a crack in her armor, making her heart skip a beat before resuming its steady thrum. Bay 9 opened like a cave within the station, a cramped bar drenched in murky light from swaying bulbs, the air thick with the acrid tang of burned metal and the heady sting of alien liquor that prickled her eyes. The crowd, a mix of smugglers, exiled pilots, and mercenaries from across the galaxy, crammed the space, their hoarse laughter and clinking glasses weaving a chaotic symphony. At the far corner, Ethan Cole sat alone, his tall frame standing out like a mountain among weeds. He wore a silver-gray pilot's jacket, frayed at the shoulders from countless flights, his short black hair tousled as if kissed by cosmic winds. His deep blue eyes watched quietly, sharp as a blade yet calm as a lake before a tempest. A faint scar traced his left jaw, pale and long, a ghost of a blade's past kiss. Before him sat a glass of glowing orange liquid, tendrils of smoke curling upward like a tiny flame trapped in crystal, its sharp scent cutting through the haze. Zalara approached, her hips swaying with deliberate grace, each step a fluid dance that drew every eye in the room. Her red armor shimmered like dried blood in the dim light, her purple skin catching faint rays, casting her as a mythic figure amid the rabble. "Is this seat taken?" she asked, gesturing to the chair beside him, her voice honeyed and soft yet laced with an irresistible pull, like a call from a dream. Ethan looked up, his blue eyes pausing for a heartbeat as they met her blazing gold. A slow, lopsided grin spread across his face, warm yet enigmatic, as if he just spotted a puzzle worth solving. "It is now," he said, his voice a low rumble like a ship's engine, familiar yet tinged with caution. She sat, letting one long leg brush lightly against his under the table, a spark testing the surface of steel. "I don't often see Earthlings here," she said, tilting her head toward the bartender, a three-armed Zathani with slick gray skin. "New arrival?" "Just touched down," Ethan confirmed, sipping his drink, his blue eyes flicking over her for a second before returning to the glass. Orange smoke swirled between them like a misty veil. "Work takes me everywhere. What about you? Klytherans don't usually wander this far out." "I like to explore," Zalara replied, accepting a glass of crimson liquor from the Zathani, the liquid glowing like fresh blood in the dim light. She raised it, the red gleam reflecting in her golden eyes, a lone star in the dark. "To new encounters." Ethan clinked his glass against hers, the sharp sound cutting through the din, his gaze locking onto hers without wavering. "To moments worth remembering," he said, his voice dropping to a whisper that carried a vague promise. Their conversation flowed, laughter mingling with the clink of glasses, blending into the bar's chaos. Ethan recounted escaping a plasma storm near the Orion system, his voice brimming with energy, hands gesturing as he described dodging deadly energy surges. "Thought I was done for," he said, chuckling, a self-mocking grin laced with pride. "But sometimes luck's all you've got to keep breathing." Zalara leaned closer, her hand brushing his arm, feeling the solid muscle beneath his jacket, a warmth so unlike the cold resilience of her kind, a contrast that made her pause. "You sound like a survivor," she teased, her voice playful, golden eyes glinting with a challenge. "Top 5 handsomest Earth pilots, I'd bet." "Top 5? Ethan raised an eyebrow, his lopsided grin returning with a hint of humor. "You're generous. I'm just a flyboy who dodges trouble most of the time." "Most of the time?" Zalara tilted her head, her lips curving into a mischievous smile. "So this is an exception?" "Maybe," he replied, his tone deepening, blue eyes darkening as they bored into hers. "Meeting a Klytheran here isn't exactly a daily occurrence." She laughed softly, sipping her red drink, its fiery bite sliding down her throat like a spark. Ethan spun more tales of facing space pirates, crash landing on barren worlds, his voice pulling her into the vastness of the cosmos. Yet his eyes kept darting around the room, a subtle vigilance she clocked from the start. "He's no amateur," she thought, and in that moment she wondered if she'd stepped into a game bigger than Tyker's orders. Their conversation flowed like a dance, each word and gesture sinking like steps on a cosmic floor. Ethan relived his brush with death in an Orion plasma storm, his voice alive with fire, ringing like a ship's thrusters cutting through space. "One wing got ripped clean off," he said, hands tracing the chaos, his blue eyes sparking like the deadly flares he'd outrun. "Thought I'd burn up out there, but sometimes a cool head and a stroke of luck are all you need." Zalara's soft laugh chimed like a bell amid the bar's clamor, her hand brushing his arm, feeling the heat beneath his gray jacket, a stark contrast to her cold Klytheran skin, making her fingers linger as if to hold that warmth a moment longer. He grinned back, that familiar lopsided smile, but his eyes were sharp, scanning the room, the 3-armed Zithani wiping glasses, the mercenaries bickering in the corner, the flickering bulbs overhead. "No rookie pilot has eyes like that," she thought, her pulse quickening. Those were the eyes of a predator, not prey. She leaned closer, her bound black hair swaying slightly, golden eyes locking onto him like twin flames in the dark. "You're a good storyteller," she said, her tone sweet yet teasing. "But I'd wager you've spiced it up a bit to impress me." Ethan arched a brow, his grin widening, a flicker of self-mockery in his gaze. "Embellish? No need. The truth's wild enough, like sitting here with a Klytheran on the edge of nowhere." "So you like the wild?" Zalara asked, her lips curling into a playful smirk, fingers tapping the table as if testing his rhythm. "Maybe," he said, his voice lowering, blue eyes darkening like a sky before a storm. "But I also like knowing who I'm dancing with." The air thickened between them, the bar's noise, hoarse laughs, the sting of liquor fading until it was just them in a slow, tense waltz. Zalara sipped her red drink, its burn sliding down like a flame, yet she felt Ethan's gaze, not just admiration, but scrutiny, as if he were reading every line of her purple face. "This place is too loud," she murmured, leaning in, her lips near his ear, her warm breath a subtle invitation against his skin. "My room has a better view. More private." Ethan froze for a heartbeat, desire flashing in his darkened eyes, but that lopsided grin held steady, calm as ever. "Lead the way," he said, his voice a low promise that sent a shiver through her despite her cool facade. They left the bar, threading through the station's dark corridors, the flickering lights casting eerie streaks across Zalara's red armor, like blood flowing over metal. Ethan walked beside her, his steps firm, his gray jacket fluttering with each stride, his blue eyes scanning the shadows like a soldier, not a pilot. Her room perched on the top level, its metal door sliding open with a faint hiss, revealing a wide space with a floor-to-ceiling window framing a distant black hole. Its light twisted into mesmerizing swirls, painting the walls with strange, living patterns. Ethan stepped inside, his boots tapping lightly, but instead of the view, his gaze fixed on her, blue eyes tracing her shimmering purple skin. Impressive, he said, his tone hinting at her, not the scenery, a compliment laced with playful edge. She closed the distance, her steps soft as a stalking predator, placing a hand on his chest, feeling the steady thud beneath a strong, fiery pulse so unlike her kind's cold resilience. You haven't seen anything yet, she whispered, her voice sweet as honey but sharp as a hidden blade. Their kiss began tentative, lips brushing like a test, then erupted into a fierce blaze, uncontrollable. His hands unfastened her armor, crimson plates clattering to the floor with soft clinks, revealing her pearlescent purple skin under the black hole's glow. She tugged his jacket off, silver-gray fabric sliding from his shoulders, leaving a trail of clothes to the wide bed draped in sleek black sheets. That night was unlike anything Zalara had known. The human body hotter, tougher, brimming with life compared to her Klytheran kin stirred something primal in her, a fire she couldn't quench despite her mission-driven mind. As Ethan slept beside her, his breathing steady in the dark, she slipped from the bed, bare feet meeting the cold metal floor. She retrieved a tiny device from a hidden compartment, a glowing blue drive, and scanned his personal gear, codes dancing across its screen. A stray black hair fell from his jacket. She tucked it into a DNA analyzer in her boot. Mission accomplished, clean as a blade strike. Yet as she turned to him peaceful in sleep, hair tousled, scar faint under his jaw, breath slow, a strange ache pierced her chest. Not triumph, not pride, but regret, as if she'd lost something she hadn't yet grasped. She moved to lie back down, to shake off the feeling, but her hand brushed a small object in his jacket, a signal device, blinking faintly like a dying star. Frowning, she checked it with deft fingers. It was transmitting to an unknown source, heavily encrypted. Ethan wasn't just a pilot, he was tracking someone, or something. Did he know she was a spy? Zalara gripped the device, her heart pounding like war drums, but she didn't wake him. She sat on the bed's edge, the black hole's light bathing her purple face, golden eyes glowing in the dark. She needed time to think and to figure out where this game would take her. Morning came, and Zalara woke to a searing heat racing down her arm, as if molten oil had spilled over her pale purple skin. She stretched across the sleek black sheets of the wide bed, reaching for Ethan to pull him close, to feel that human warmth again, but her hand met only cold, empty fabric, a void as desolate as a forgotten corner of space. Frowning, her golden eyes cracked open, scanning the room bathed in the swirling light from the distant black hole. Looking for me? Ethan's warm, low voice called from the bathroom, snapping her from her haze. He emerged, a white towel wrapped around his waist, water dripping from his tousled black hair onto his chest, glinting like tiny jewels in the eerie glow. The scar on his left jaw stood out as he tilted his head, that lopsided grin sparking in his deep blue eyes. She smiled back, a faint, playful curve, ready to tease him like the night before, but a sudden dizziness hit her, the metal floor seeming to tilt beneath her. She gripped the bed's edge, sharp nails digging into the black padding, leaving tiny slashes. Zalara, you okay? Ethan's tone shifted from jest to concern in an instant. He crossed the room like a shadow, kneeling beside her, his strong hands on her shoulders, warmth seeping through the red armor she hadn't yet donned. I'm fine, she said, but her voice trembled, fragile as wind over a barren world. She glanced at her arm, breath catching. Her purple skin was now marred with black streaks, like ink from a cosmic squid spreading from the center, writhing like poisoned veins under the faint light. What is this? She whispered, golden eyes widening in terror, blazing like panicked flames. Ethan touched her arm, fingers tracing the black marks with a soldier's care, inspecting them with the focus of someone who'd faced danger head-on. These weren't here last night, he said, his voice dropping, eyes sharp as they'd been in the bar, a hunter's gaze, not a bystander's. How do you feel? Exactly how? Dizzy, she admitted, her voice hoarse as fear crept through her, cold as clitoris ice. My skin, it's tight, like something's crawling inside. She looked up, golden eyes locking onto his, a horrifying thought flashing like plasma. Ethan, in Klytheran lore, there's talk of black star fever, a disease from close contact with other species. It's just legend, campfire tales to scare kids, but... She trailed off, staring at him, breath ragged. Are you affected? Ethan frowned, standing to check himself, hands running over his chest, arms, legs. He shook his head, voice firm. I'm fine. No marks, no heat, no dizziness. Maybe it only hits Klytherans or just you. His gaze softened with rare worry, but his calm held steady, unshakable. Is this some alien STD humans joke about? She laughed weakly, despite the pain clawing her chest. If it is, you brought it, she quipped, her voice faint but clinging to humor. The smile faded fast, replaced by panic as the black streaks spread, riddling like tiny serpents beneath her skin. We're going to the med bay, Ethan declared, rising and dressing swiftly, movements crisp like a soldier's, not a drifter's. He yanked his gray jacket over his shoulders, boots hitting the floor with a solid thud. You need a checkup now. No messing around. No, Zalara protested, trying to stand, but her knees buckled like brittle twigs. She grabbed her red armor, pulling it on, but the black streaks had reached her chest, a grotesque web that sent her crashing to the floor, gasping like wind through a narrow crevice. Ethan lunged, catching her, his arms strong yet gentle, holding her upright. If Commander Tyker finds out I got this from you, she whispered, voice raw, I'll be recalled to Zalara. Or worse, they'll lock me in a lab, dissect me to study this thing. Ethan tightened his grip on her shoulders, blue eyes hardening like steel. We'll keep it quiet, he said, his tone a vow. I know a doc here, Dr. Loren, a Zathani. He's a genius with rare diseases, and better yet, he keeps his mouth shut like a black hole. Met him on a few runs. He helped her up, letting her lean on him, his warmth easing her tremors through her armor. They left the room, Zalara clinging to Ethan as the black streaks raced faster, writhing beneath her skin like living cords, each step a battle against her own body. The station's corridors stretched empty, flickering lights casting long shadows that danced like specters on the metal walls. Ethan's boots tapped a steady beat, mingling with Zalara's labored breaths, echoing in the silence. But as they rounded a corner, a figure darted past the hall's end, a Klytheran in glossy black armor, golden eyes blazing like twin hunting flames, a scanner in hand beeping softly. We're being watched, Zalara hissed, heart pounding like war drums, nails digging into Ethan's arm. Ethan paused, his right hand slipping a dagger from his boot, its blade flashing under the dim light like a warning. He turned to her, blue eyes cold as ice, voice low and sharp as the blade he'd drawn. I'm not just a pilot, Zalara. I'm Earth's Special Forces. I came here for Tyker and maybe you, if you're not careful. She froze, staring at him as if seeing him anew, breath catching in her chest. Her golden eyes widened, reflecting the dagger in his hand. They were both players in a spy game, and the board had just tilted wildly. You knew who I was from the start? She asked, voice hoarse, torn between anger and awe. Not quite, he said, that lopsided grin returning, now edged with danger. But I knew I was dancing with a viper. And I'm not afraid to bite back if I have to. The med bay of the Crimson Void loomed like a labyrinth of blinding white light, its polished metal walls reflecting every beam like mirrors, the sharp scent of antiseptic stabbing Zalara's nose and making her grimace despite her weakening body. A distant hum of machinery rumbled, like the heartbeat of a slumbering beast deep within the station. Dr. Loren emerged as they crossed the sliding doors, his towering figure stark against the sterile glow. His gray, glossy skin shimmered like polished steel, three long arms swaying gently like the tendrils of some bizarre sea creature. His tiny black eyes, like twin pearls sunk in shadow, flicked over Zalara with cold curiosity. What's happened? He asked, his deep voice resonating like a ship's thrusters cutting through space, commanding yet detached. Ethan eased Zalara onto an exam table, his touch gentle but firm, a hand brushing her shoulder in silent reassurance. She got these marks after being close to me, he said, his low voice faltering at the end, as if unsure how to label last night a mission, a mistake, or something deeper. He pointed to the writhing black streaks on Zalara's arm, now spreading across her chest like a grotesque lattice, squirming beneath her pale purple skin like living serpents. Loren activated a bioscanner, one of his 3 arms darting out with startling speed, fingers tapping the control panel. The device buzzed, a pale blue light sweeping over Zalara, her form flickering on the screen like a poisoned star map. "When did it start?" he asked, his other 2 arms moving in sync like a living machine, wielding small, gleaming tools. "This morning," Zalara replied, her voice faint, breaths ragged like wind whistling through a narrow pass on her homeworld. "I felt heat, then weakness. Like my body's melting from the inside." She lifted her head, golden eyes dimming with pain but still blazing with Klytheran defiance. The scanner beeped, a shrill note slicing the silence. Loren frowned, his tiny eyes narrowing, one arm zooming in on the data. "This is Black Star Fever," he said, his voice dropping like distant thunder. "An ancient Klytheran affliction, centuries old, from your kind's first contact with humans. Human biochemistry compounds in blood, sweat triggers a toxic reaction in Klytherans during intimate exposure." He paused, glancing at Ethan, a knowing glint in his eyes that Zalara couldn't miss. Ethan gripped her hand, fingers tightening in a wordless vow, his warmth cutting through her cold skin. "Is there a cure?" he asked, his tone steady, blue eyes fixed on her as if daring the universe to take her from him. "Yes," Loren said, but his voice carried a heavy weight, like a burden he couldn't shake. "But it's not simple. Human blood holds antibodies that can neutralize the toxin, but it requires a large dose extracted from bone marrow, not just a few drops from a fingertip. The process is risky for the donor, could leave them weakened for weeks, maybe months. And we need equipment from the main lab, a specialized biocentrifuge currently under Tyker's control." His small eyes flicked to Zalara, a spark of caution in them. "Do it," Ethan said, his voice a command, eyes never leaving her, as if he'd made the call before Loren finished. "Ethan, no!" Zalara protested, struggling to sit up, but her body betrayed her, the black streaks caging her chest like iron. She gasped, nails digging into the table. "I tricked you. My mission was to steal intel from your fleet data, Earth's secrets. Last night was a trap, a game I was trained to play." Her voice rasped, golden eyes clouded with pain and regret. Ethan stared at her, a flicker of hurt cracking his blue gaze like ice, but then he smiled, a sad, warm curve, like light-piercing shadow. "I tricked you too," he said, his tone low, laced with self-mockery. "I knew you were a spy from the start. My signal device recorded everything, from your hello at the bar to your breaths last night. But I'm still here, Zalara. I'm not letting you die, not after that dance we shared." He squeezed her hand harder, a gesture both tender and resolute. Loren cut in, his voice dropping like an engine winding down. "If Tyker knows about Black Star Fever, he'll weaponize it against humans. He's tested it on small colonies, remote stations no one notices. I saw the reports when I worked for him." He paused, his tiny eyes darting between them, weighing something unspoken. Zalara clutched Ethan's hand, nails leaving red marks on his skin. "Tyker's always wanted humanity gone," she whispered, her voice trembling yet sharp. "If he gets me, if he sees this in my body, he'll experiment on both our kinds, perfect it into something that could wipe Earth clean without a shot fired. Then we take the equipment without him knowing." Ethan decided, standing tall, his broad shoulders tensing under his gray jacket like a soldier ready for war. "How long can you hold out?" "A few hours," Loren replied, one arm retrieving a syringe from the lab table, its glowing green contents shimmering in the glass. He injected it into Zalara's neck, the liquid flowing into her veins like a tiny river, easing her pain briefly, though the black streaks still writhed, slower but relentless. "This is my only stopgap dose, a temporary compound from my stash. It'll keep you alive, but not for long." As they prepared to leave, Loren pulled Ethan aside, a long arm gripping his shoulder, his voice a whisper like wine through the halls. "I worked for Tyker once," he said, his tiny eyes flashing rare fear. 3 years ago, he injected me with an experimental Black Star Fever strain to see if a Zathani could survive. I did, thanks to antibodies from a captured human pilot. But now I'm a traitor in his eyes. If he knows I'm helping her, He'll tear me apart or worse. Ethan nodded, his blue eyes hardening like cold steel. Thanks, Lauren, he said, his voice low but firm. Keep her breathing till I'm back. I'm not losing anyone in this game, not her, not you. He glanced at Zalara, a lopsided grin flickering like a promise. Zalara guided Ethan to Bay 14, her steps slow but resolute, though the black streaks had crept to her neck, strangling her flesh like an invisible cage. Bay 14 lurked deep within the Crimson Void, a forgotten corner where Dr. Kale's research vessel, a rare Klytheran who sympathized with humans, sat silently. The small, sleek ship shimmered like a pearl under the faint glow of flickering ceiling lights, its iridescent hull a forgotten gem amid dull metal. Ethan followed, boots tapping a steady rhythm, his blue eyes scanning the empty corridor, hand gripping the dagger in his boot, its cold steel a reminder of what lay ahead. But as they neared, he halted, nostrils flaring at a sharp, metallic stench. The ship's door hung ajar, a pool of thick black liquid viscous as tar oozing out, spreading across the floor in grotesque streaks, its reek of death stopping Zalara cold. Stay here, Ethan said, his voice low and sharp as his drawn blade, eyes hardening like tempered steel. He stepped inside, dagger glinting, each move cautious on the slick floor. In the control room, Dr. Kale lay motionless, his frail frame slumped, a precise stab wound at his nape, the mark of a professional killer, no hesitation. His purple blood pooled beneath him, gleaming like amethyst under the console's blue light, his golden eyes wide and lifeless, staring at a secret he'd never share. Zalara entered despite his warning, her trembling hand brushing the console, nails scratching metal as if clinging to something lost. Tiker, she whispered, her voice hoarse as the black streaks choked her throat. He knew Kale was studying Black Star Fever. He'd let no one stand in his way, not a soul. She turned to Ethan, her golden eyes dim with pain but burning with resolve. Ethan didn't reply, his fingers flying over the console's buttons, movements crisp like a soldier's, not a wanderer's. Lights flared, green dots pulsing like the ship's heartbeat, its engines whirring faintly, a fragile hope igniting. Lucky it still works, he muttered, his tone low, laced with dry humor. We need to get out before Tiker finds us, or this becomes a flying coffin. He glanced at Zalara, a flicker of worry in his blue eyes as she slumped into the co-pilot's seat, hands shaking but clawing at the controls, nails leaving tiny gouges. Engage emergency protocol, she ordered, her voice weak yet firm, a Klytheran refusing death's grasp. The engines roared, the ship shuddering like a waking beast, then rocketed into space with a jolt, leaving the Crimson Void behind amid blaring alarms and swirling dust. Red lights flashed in the station's corridors, like a predator's eyes losing its prey. But relief was short-lived. 3 Klytheran patrol ships emerged from the void, their black noses slicing space like blades, plasma cannons flashing. A shot grazed their tail, the blast ringing in their ears, rocking the ship violently. Zalara gripped her seat, nails piercing the padding, the black streaks at her neck rasping her voice like icy wind. They won't let us go, she warned, her golden eyes clouded but sharp. Let him try. Ethan shot back, a lopsided grin flashing like a taunt. He slammed the throttle to max, engines screaming as if ready to burst, stars blurring into streaks as they hit light speed. The ship rattled, pinning Zalara back with double gravity. Ethan switched to autopilot, turning to her, blue eyes locking onto her marred purple face. Kale's research, where is it? He demanded, his voice low but urgent, a soldier racing time. Sleeping quarters, below deck, she said, pointing weakly to a narrow staircase behind the cockpit, breaths shallow as if fading. Ethan lifted her, steps slow as her body grew heavy, the black streaks binding her like ropes. The stairs led to a cramped, dark room lit only by faint blue wall lights. Kale's quarters resembled an ancient library, walls lined with paper books, thick, worn tomes, a rarity in a digital age. On his desk sat an old, encrypted computer, its screen swirling with cosmic patterns. Zalara pulled a tiny scanner from her boot, a silver device glinting faintly, and swept it over Kale's cup, still holding a drop of thick purple liquid, its metallic stench rising like dried blood. The screen flared, thousands of files spilling forth like buried treasure. "Here," she said, opening a folder labeled Black Star Fever, her trembling fingers brushing the keys. She scanned it, golden eyes fading with exhaustion but forcing focus. "He confirmed human blood's antibodies are key," she whispered, voice raw. "But it needs a catalyst X-19, a rare compound from Klytheran ice caves. Kale tried synthesizing it, but didn't finish." She trailed off, breaths labored, the black streaks creeping up her cheeks like spilled ink. Ethan nodded, easing her into Kale's creaky chair, his hand firm on her shoulder. "We'll get there," he said, his voice a steel-clad oath, blue eyes blazing with resolve. But as he turned back to the cockpit, a hidden file popped up, static crackling. Zalara frowned, her shaky finger hitting the icon. Kale's voice rasped through, faint but haunting. "If you're hearing this, listen close. Tyker injected himself with Black Star Fever to build immunity. He's turned his body into a living reactor. He doesn't just want humans dead, he wants to be the living weapon against them, a biobomb that spreads through air, through touch. I tried to stop him, but..." The recording cut off, Kale's last gasps fading into silence. Zalara turned to Ethan, golden eyes wide with panic, but her hand gripped his like a silent vow. "He's a walking bomb," she whispered, voice trembling yet sharp as a blade. "If Tyker reaches any human colony, millions die and we're leading him right to them." Ethan pulled her up, blue eyes cold as ice but that lopsided grin returning, dangerous and defiant. "Then we'll blow him up first," he said, his voice a rumbling challenge, fingers dancing over the controls. "To Klytheran," he ordered, firm and urgent. "X-19's our only shot for you, for everyone." The engines roared, the ship leaping to light speed, stars blurring into streaks outside. Zalara slumped in her seat, breaths heavy as the black streaks climbed her face, but her golden eyes flickered with fragile hope. The race to Klytheran was a gamble of flight through the void, each second a knife slashing at her life, and humanity's. Klytheran loomed through the ship's viewport, an icy jewel flung into the void, its caves glinting pale blue under a deep purple sky, a beauty so striking Zalara paused despite her fading strength. Jagged ice peaks stabbed upward like blades, reflecting light from two orbiting moons, painting the world in eerie streaks. But that splendor shattered as 3 Klytheran patrol ships emerged from the dark, their sleek black hulls slicing space like claws, plasma cannons aimed, red lights pulsing like death's eyes. "Tyker's faster than we thought," Ethan muttered, hands gripping the controls, knuckles white, blue eyes darting over the tactical screen. Zalara, nearly unconscious, leaned against the co-pilot's seat, breaths faint as wind over her icy homeworld. She raised a trembling hand, pointing to a blinking dot on the screen south of the planet. "There's a settlement there," she rasped, voice choked by the black streaks at her throat. "If we reach it, they'll spot us instantly." Ethan cut in, his tone low and sharp, a rare worry flashing in his gaze. "Tyker didn't send 3 ships for a scenic tour." A signal blared from the patrol ships. "Unidentified vessel, this is Klytheran security. Surrender now or be destroyed." The voice was cold, metallic, echoing through the cockpit. Ethan gritted his teeth, fingers hovering over the comms to fire back an Earth-style quip. But before he could, a small ship surged from the planet's surface, slipping between them and the patrol like a silent ghost. Its battered silver hull gleamed faintly, agile despite its scars. "This is Captain Rhea of the Shadow Wing." A woman's voice snapped through the comms, hard as steel yet brimming with cocky assurance. "This ship's under my protection. Stand down, or I'll report you to the Galactic Council, and trust me, your paperwork's too dirty to pass their sniff test." Ethan frowned, switching to a private channel, suspicion lacing his voice but curiosity winning out. "Who are you?" "Save now, chat later." Rhea shot back, clipped like a gunshot, leaving no room for debate. "Follow me to the surface. Stay close, don't make me tow you." Ethan glanced at Zalara, blue eyes wary, but he nodded, guiding their ship tight against the Shadow Wing, hulls scraping with tiny sparks like cosmic fireflies. They plunged through Klytheran's icy atmosphere, engines roaring, leaving thin white trails in the frigid air. They landed in a hidden ravine, towering ice walls rising like a natural fortress, shielding them from orbital eyes, blue light bouncing off the ships like a surreal painting. Rhea stepped from the shadow wing, heavy boots crunching ice with a solid thud. She was lean, her short silver hair glinting like frost, brown eyes cold and assessing as they swept over Ethan and Zalara. A plasma pistol at her hip flashed as she shifted, her gaze locking on Zalara now limp in Ethan's arms, her purple skin mottled with black. "Black Star Fever," Rhea said, her voice dropping like wine through the ravine. "Saw it once on a freighter years back. Get her in my ship, unless you want to haul her corpse back to Earth as a souvenir." Ethan didn't reply, just nodded, striding through the Shadow Wing's hatch, his warmth seeping through Zalara's red armor, though she barely felt it past the dull ache. The ship's med bay was small but stocked white metal walls lined with scanners and syringes, a faint antiseptic tang in the air. Ethan laid Zalara on the exam bed, his hand brushing her shoulder with rare gentleness, then turned to Rhea, blue eyes probing. "Who risks their neck against 3 Klytheran ships?" Rhea leaned against the wall, arms crossed, a faint smirk curling her lips cold but loaded. "Smuggler," she said, her tone flat like an old tale. "Run goods between humans and Klytheran's weapons, data, anything with a price. But I'm not here for credits. Tyker tested bioweapons on a human colony a year ago, 1,500 dead in a night, no shots fired. He wants Black Star Fever as his new toy, something to erase humans without spilling Klytheran blood. Why help us?" Ethan pressed, his gaze digging deeper, hand tightening on the bed's edge. Rhea's smirk faded, brown eyes flashing bitter. "I hate Tyker, he's scum even to a smuggler like me. And I want proof to bury him, send him to the galaxy's deepest pit. He doesn't know I was Kale's assistant until I turned on him to save humans trapped in a poisoned station. Now I owe them, and I pay it by keeping you alive." She tilted her head towards Zalara. "She's the key, I'm guessing?" Before Ethan could answer, Rhea's medic entered Jackson, a tall man with wild red hair like a flame, his warm voice rumbling like an old engine. He checked Zalara, hands tracing the black streaks with practiced care, then injected a glowing yellow serum from a metal case into her neck. The liquid flowed like a radiant stream, slowing the streaks slightly, though they still writhed like tiny snakes. 10 hours, Jackson warned, turning to Ethan, his gaze grave. "Without the cure, your blood's antibodies plus X-19, she won't make it past tonight. Her heart's slowing, and this'll eat her lungs before dawn." Ethan nodded, blue eyes hardening like forged steel, fist clenching. "Then we move fast," he said, his voice low and resolute, a human defying time itself. "Where's X-19, and how do we grab it before Tyker catches up?" Rhea's lips twitched, brown eyes glinting with a dare. "Northern ice caves," she replied. "But Tyker's got guards, will hit hard, or die quick." They moved toward the X-19 caves as darkness cloaked Klytheris, the deep purple sky draping the planet like a shroud of death, pierced only by the eerie green glow of ice veins shimmering like ghostly flames, cold enough to chill the marrow. Wind howled through narrow ravines, whispering like trapped souls in the frost. Tyker had stationed guards across the area, their silhouettes darting under the dim light, black armor glinting like giant beetles on an icy desert. Leading them was Colonel Vorn, a towering Klytheran, his sleek black armor hugging a frame hard as steel, golden eyes cold as the ice of Zalara's homeworld, blazing in the dark like twin hunting fires. He stood atop a high ledge, surveying the scene with the arrogance of one who believed himself invincible. Ethan crouched behind a jutting rock, blue eyes scanning the guards, hand gripping his dagger, its blade flashing under the ice's green glow. "We need a distraction," he said, his voice low and sharp, a soldier plotting mid-battle. Rhea nodded, her silver hair glinting as she signaled her crew 3 rough figures armed with makeshift weapons, from battered plasma rifles to energy-edged knives. "Hit from the east," she hissed into her comms, her tone icy as the ground beneath them. "Make noise, don't let 'em think." Plasma fire erupted moments later, red streaks tearing through the dark, drawing most guards from the cave like wasps from a kicked hive. Ethan and Zalara, propped up by Rhea, slipped in through a side entrance, icy walls scraping their shoulders, breaths fogging in the frigid air. The cave stretched deep, its greenlit ice veins casting surreal patterns on the walls, a living labyrinth. Ethan led, his steps steady despite blood seeping from an old shoulder wound, his flashlight slicing through shadows. He found X-19 in a deep ice vein, a silvery liquid glowing faintly like captive moonlight, trapped in thick frost. He carved it free with his dagger, the blade slicing with crisp shinks, collecting the liquid in a sealed vial tucked into his jacket. "Hurry!" Rhea urged, her brown eyes darting to the entrance, plasma pistol tight in her grip. But a roar cut through Vorn's voice, deep and guttural like a beast's growl. "The Klytheran rat and her earth pet!" he bellowed, emerging from the dark, drawing his plasma gun in a flash. The shot came fast, a red plasma bolt ripping the air, striking Ethan's leg before he could dodge. He crumpled, blood spilling onto the white ice, a stark crimson stain in the green glow. "Ethan!" Zalara cried, her voice piercing despite her near collapse, black streaks now creeping up her cheeks like spilled ink. She snatched Rhea's gun, hands trembling but fierce, firing back with all she had left. A bolt hit Vorn's chest, piercing his black armor, dropping him with a guttural groan, but his dying shout summoned more guards from the cave's depths. "Run!" Zalara yelled, dragging Ethan up, her shaking hands clamping his arm like she'd never let go. They stumbled out, ice shattering underfoot, but as they emerged, a towering figure blocked their path. Tyker. His body shimmered with purple-black streaks, a living canvas of black star fever, his skin glinting like poisoned steel, golden eyes blazing with mad fury like hellfire. "I've made it my strength!" he roared, his voice thundering through the cave like a storm, each step cracking the ice. He lunged, claws slashing Ethan's shoulder, tearing through his gray jacket, blood spraying in a long arc. Ethan shoved Zalara aside, blocking the next blow with his arm, blood streaming down, soaking the ice red. Rhea fired from afar, red plasma bolts slamming Tyker's chest, but he didn't fall. His skin was like armor, pausing him only a moment before he laughed, wild and unhinged. "It's futile," Tyker snarled, his voice a curse echoing off the walls. "I've sent the disease to the fleet, hundreds of ships, millions of Klytherans ready to spread it. Even if I die, humanity's finished." He swung again, claws whistling past Ethan's throat. Ethan gritted his teeth, clutching his shoulder, blood dripping, but his blue eyes locked on Zalara, burning with resolve through the pain. "Not while I'm breathing," he rasped, voice rough but sharp as his blade, pulling Zalara and Rhea back toward the shadow wing, each step a defiant slog over cracking ice. Tyker pursued, his stomps splitting the ground, his roars a final war cry. They scrambled aboard, Ethan collapsing onto the medbay floor, blood pooling from his torn jacket in a red trail on the white metal. He grabbed Jackson, Rhea's red-haired medic voice fading from blood loss. "Use my blood," he whispered, eyes dimming but unyielding. "It's got the antibodies, take it, save her." Jackson nodded, drawing a small syringe from his kit, extracting blood from Ethan's arm. Not much, given how much he'd lost. He mixed it with X-19 in a tiny centrifuge, the silver liquid glowing brilliantly as it fused with the red. Injecting it into Zalara's vein, the mixture flowed like a radiant river, the black streaks on her skin slowing, then dissolving like ink in water, leaving her purple skin pearlescent once more. But Ethan slumped, breath shallow as a dying breeze, head lolling on the cold floor. Zalara seized his hand, nails digging into his skin, tears streaking her cheeks, glinting in the scanner's blue light. "Don't leave me," she whispered, her voice trembling yet fierce, a rare plea from a proud Klytheran. He managed a weak grin, that lopsided smile faint with pain. "Not going anywhere," he croaked, hand squeezing hers faintly, a last promise as darkness closed in. Tyker stormed onto the shadow wing, his massive frame a black tempest tearing through the tight space, fists smashing the med bay door with a deafening crash. Metal buckled under his force, shards flying, glinting in the cold white light. "You're not escaping, Zalara," he roared, his voice booming like thunder from Klyther's icy caves, claws gleaming like blades primed to shred everything. Purple-black streaks writhed on his skin like living snakes, glowing with a grotesque sheen, his golden eyes wild with rage and unshakable triumph. But Zalara, revived by Ethan's blood and X-19, rose from the exam bed, her body steady, purple skin shimmering with renewed life. She yanked Jackson's plasma pistol from his stunned grip, fingers clamping the handle with the resolve of a Klytheran with nothing left to lose. "You've lost, Tyker," she said, her voice cold as ice but sharp as a fresh-drawn blade, golden eyes locking onto him. She fired, a red plasma bolt tearing through the air, piercing Tyker's steel-like skin, purple blood spraying in a long arc across the white floor. He crumpled, knees slamming down, golden eyes fading like dying embers, yet a mad grin lingered on his lips. As he fell, Tyker choked out a laugh, a rasping wheeze like wind over a wrecked ship, his trembling hand pressing a device on his wrist, its red light blinking like a death knell. "The disease is gone," he rasped, his voice faint but triumphant, then stilled, his hulking form toppling like a broken statue. A signal flashed on the Shadow Wings console, cutting the silence. He'd sent the Black Star Fever data to the Klytheran fleet, a web of hundreds of warships poised in the cosmic dark. Rhea lunged for the console, silver hair flashing as she bent over it, fingers racing across the keys with a smuggler's desperate cunning. "I'll hack their system," she said, voice taut but steady, brown eyes fixed on the screen. Code danced under her hands, the display flaring with a spiderweb of comms links. She beamed Tyker's crimes, Kale's murder, the colony tests, the bioweapon plot to the Galactic Council via an old smuggling channel, her hands a blur. Minutes later, the Klytheran fleet's signal flatlined. Like an orchestra silenced mid-note, the Council had stepped in, neutralizing Tyker's plan before it spread. Rhea leaned back, exhaling hard, a faint smirk curling her lips. "He was fast, but I'm faster," she muttered, a smuggler's pride shining through. 3 days later, in a Galactic Council med station, soft white light bathed the space, a stark contrast to Klythera's chill or the Crimson Void's gloom. Zalara entered Ethan's room, crimson boots tapping lightly, her purple skin radiant like pearls under the window's view of a sparkling galaxy. She wore simpler garb, no armor, yet carried her Klytheran pride intact. Ethan lay in bed, shoulder bandaged from Tyker's claws, the wound still raw but healing, his blue eyes lighting up like beacons as she approached. "I'm cured," she said, smiling, a rare, soft curve with a hint of their first night's mischief. She sat on the bed's edge, hand resting on his. "They tested me this morning, no trace of Black Star Fever. Your blood and X-19 worked a miracle. The Council wants me as a liaison between Klytherans and humans, a bridge between species, they say." Her voice dipped, golden eyes glinting with pride and surprise, as if she hadn't expected to become a peacemaker instead of a warrior. Ethan took her hand, pulling her closer, fingers tightening with his familiar warmth cutting through her cool skin, a reminder of their shared trials. "They tapped me to lead a joint Earth Alliance force," he said, his warm voice laced with that old self-mockery. "Said I'm good at surviving and picking partners." He tilted his head, blue eyes locking with hers, a lopsided grin flickering. "What do you say to working close with me?" "Real close?" "Real close," she murmured, leaning in to kiss him, her lips soft yet fierce like that first night in the Crimson Void's bar. The kiss lingered, unhurried, untensed, a bond transcending species, a warm flame between two souls once foes. As she pulled back, her golden eyes shimmered with rare joy, fingers lacing tight with his. As they left the room, footsteps echoing lightly down the polished hall, a hidden message from Kale flickered on a wall screen. His voice, soft and raspy, carried a final weight. "If you hear this, Zalara, remember, humans aren't just the cure, they're the key to changing us. Don't fear loving them, trusting them. I saw it too late." The recording faded, leaving a gentle silence. Zalara turned to Ethan, golden eyes meeting blue, her grip tightening. From a mission of deceit, a deadly disease, and a war among stars, they'd found something beyond species, an undying love, blazing like a star in the void, unquenchable. They stepped from the station, shoulder to shoulder, the galaxy's light bathing their faces, a Klytheran and a human, once rival spies, now allies, lovers, and hope for a new dawn. Behind them, the universe stretched endless, but ahead, They had each other a small, unshakable light in the vast dark.